Well, Egypt, of course, not the only country in the region calling on Israel to halt a looming offensive. Jordan's foreign minister, not mincing his words, tweeting earlier, and I quote, "Instead of giving negotiations on hostage release and ceasefire a chance, Israeli government occupied Rafah crossing and closed it to humanitarian aid to starve Gazans. Its attack on Rafah threatens another massacre. The Security Council must act firmly and immediately. Netanyahu must face real consequence." Well, Ayman al-Safadi, Jordan's foreign minister, joins me now live from Washington. And Foreign Minister, myself and certainly many others around this region where I am went to sleep last night hoping that there was finally some moves to secure a hostage and ceasefire deal in Gaza, only to wake up to Israeli troops on the ground in Rafah occupying that crucial border crossing. I just want to get your reaction to the images that we are seeing out of Rafah today. And just to let our viewers know, you are, as we speak, in Washington.
Thank you, Becky. Good day to you. Terrible images, an indication of the worst that is yet to come if Netanyahu is allowed to continue with a ground invasion into Rafah, which by any standard will be another humanitarian catastrophe. As you said, people were expecting a ceasefire. Indeed, Gazans were celebrating, only for Netanyahu to thwart the deal by occupying the Palestinian side of the Rafah crossing and continuing his rhetoric that is basically saying unless the deal happens, he'll go ahead and kill more thousands of Palestinians. There are negotiations. Mediators are saying that they are closed. Netanyahu is obligated to give those negotiations a chance. Unfortunately, he's done just the opposite. And again, he's pushing towards further escalation that would undermine the strenuous efforts that were made to get to a deal and obviously committing another massacre against Palestinians.
The Israeli perspective is that a ceasefire and hostage deal is not mutually exclusive from an assault on Rafah, where Israel believes the remaining Hamas militants are holed up. Now, Egypt has called for restraint, as you have, and has warned Israel to stay away from a, quote, policy of brinkmanship that has long-term impact. What do you read into Egypt's statement there? And what do you make of this call to stop this brinkmanship? Is that how you see things at present?
Well, Egypt is trying to prevent a massacre from happening. It's trying to prevent escalation. And it's not only Egypt. The whole world is saying the Rafah operation shouldn't happen. Indeed, Israel's biggest supporter, the United States, is saying that Rafah operation should not happen. But again, the reality is Netanyahu is defying the whole world, is throwing even his allies under the bus and continuing with actions that are hurting all prospects for a ceasefire, dragging the region further into the abyss, and again, causing another humanitarian catastrophe. I think it is time the whole world realized that Netanyahu's got to be stopped. Statements and urging is not going to do it. It is time Netanyahu faced consequences. That is the moment. That's the reality that the whole world should recognize and act upon right now.
Foreign Minister, you are coming to us from the US Capitol, where yesterday King Abdullah met with President Joe Biden, cautioning against an Israeli attack on Rafah. Some months ago, Joe Biden himself calling Rafah a red line. You were in the room. Can you just explain a little more on what was discussed and what Joe Biden said?
I mean, basically, the discussion was focused on stopping the ground invasion into Rafah, ensuring that humanitarian catastrophe is addressed and it's not allowed to be aggravated further, and stopping the war, getting a ceasefire, getting the hostage deal done, and actually move towards an irreversible path towards a once and for all peace. His Majesty was very clear in warning against the horrific consequences of an attack on Rafah, and also of the devastating impact of Israel continuing with its war and not allowing for all of us to come together and try and create the peace that would address Israel's concerns and Palestinians' rights. So it was a very, very open discussion, very frank discussion. But unfortunately, again, Netanyahu is not listening. He's just continuing with his defiance of the whole world.
We know that broadly the parameters of a deal being discussed at present are, first phase, the release of a number of hostages, up to 33. Second phase, the restoration of, as it is described, a sustainable calm, otherwise known as a sustainable ceasefire. Third phase, potentially, the process of moving towards a plan for Gaza going forward. Do you agree in Jordan with the loose parameters of this deal? And to your understanding, do both sides ultimately agree with the parameters of this deal? I'm trying to get to whether, if two sides over the next however many days can get together and agree on the finer detail, we are anywhere close to a temporary truce, the release of some hostages, and the potential for a sustainable calm or ceasefire.
Becky, the deal has been months in the making. Mediators have said that there are enough parameters to be able to get everybody's agreement to, and then move ahead with the deal. We all support the deal. It must happen. Both sides are going to have to realize that this deal is a must. Get the hostages out, released, get a ceasefire, and stop this massacre. But again, I think it is wrong morally, legally. It is unacceptable for Netanyahu to leverage the killing of other thousands of Gazans to get the deal. He needs to negotiate in earnest. And again, the mediators are working extremely hard, have been working nonstop to try and get that deal. So there are parameters that everybody agrees on. At least the mediators say that they are sufficient. Details need to be worked out, and that's what negotiations are for. So again, negotiations should continue in earnest. Israel should negotiate, stop the attack on Rafah, and give mediators a chance to get that deal and get us the calm that should ultimately lead to a permanent ceasefire.